What's up, guys? Andy, BC Builds. Um, I'm sorry I loaded two gray wash videos up, but the first one won't load. It keeps telling me it's too long, and it's only like 33 minutes. Not even, I think it's like 23 or 33, which is, I don't understand. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to get it uploaded. Part two's uploaded, but it doesn't really help you if you don't have the first half of the video showing you how to set it up. But in the meantime, while I'm working on that, day off, hanging out, my kid's sleeping. One of the biggest questions I get is what machines do I actually use? Because I have a ton of machines and I rebuild shit machines and I buy good machines and I collect like 200 and something machines now, which is sickening. And the sad part is I sold a bunch and I still have it's like 204 machines now. 203 or 204. You know, 200 doesn't sound like a big number, but a lot of these tattoo machines are, a couple $100 a pop. It's a lot of money, and some of them, I have a few machines that are worth, 5, 6 grand easy. Um, like my Lyle Tuttle belt buckle, and then my other Lyle Tuttle. Both of them together are probably worth $11,000 to $12,000. Didn't pay that much, but I paid a lot. Anyways, so to get on to the question, what do I use? I'm sorry about the shitty video. Just using the front camera on my tablet, which really isn't that good. Um, so anyways, I guess we'll start with liners. And it all depends what I'm doing. First, probably my most used liner of all time, which you guys have seen this before, is a DV8. It's been completely rebuilt. You guys saw this, the video, which is on here, you can look it up, where I actually snapped the front spring. After that, it kind of motivated me to completely rebuild it. It's got completely new coils on it. They're both stilted. The rear's stilted a little more. They're 3/8 cores, 6 wraps, capped on tape, and some electrical resin for insulation too. They're big, thick, fibrous plastic washers that I cut out of some random shit I had at my house. They're, I don't know if you can see it, they're epoxied in place, so I didn't have to cut the glue for the Eclipse. They're flush top. Not a lot of cores sticking out of the top, which really doesn't make much of a difference. Complete rebuild. And as I said in the last video of this, where the spring broke, someone said it was because it didn't have an O-ring. Actually, O-rings are kind of useless. Well, if you cut your own springs. If you're limited to generic springs, yes, you should use O-rings. But when you cut your own spring size, they're completely useless. I don't know if I have any that have O-rings on it. I do. I have one on my color packer. The only thing an O-ring actually does is change the bend point and absorb some of the impact. So instead of the bending point being all the way back here, it's out here now, which basically is just shortening the spring, making it a little stiffer and absorbing a little more of the shock. This is a generic spring I didn't cut, so I used an O-ring to adjust the tension on it. If it was a spring that I cut, instead of putting an O-ring, I would have just cut it a little shorter or the spring a little fatter to have the same amount of tension. Anyways, that was just to address that. You do not need an O-ring. They really aren't beneficial besides changing the tension on the spring. They don't help. The machines will actually run more efficient when you don't have that O-ring. That O-ring absorbs a lot of that impact and a lot of that downspring power. Because people, when the spring or the armature bar rebounds, comes back up, the front spring bends, acts like a trampoline, and it'll push it down. When you have that O-ring in there, that absorbs a lot of it, and you lose a lot of that downswing power. So anyways, DV8 liner, I like this. It's a really short frame here to here, opposed to something like this big. You can see it's the next gen. It's a small machine, it's short, it's light, and this can run anything 3 through a 9 without a problem. It can bloodline and single pass line and color line. So on to my next liner, which I really fell in love with this one too. Got this for review just like the other one, and I never planned on using it, but this is a Kylan machine. It's been semi-rebuilt, just retuned. It's got new hardware, new binding post, and a new one-piece cut spring. I cut it short instead of making it longer with an O-ring because it's a cutback. This is my big bold liner. If you want those big fucking Sharpie lines, I'd use this motherfucker. This will push anything, 7 to whatever size you want. It has pretty much unlimited power. The coils do not overheat. It's got a little more power. It's got a little thicker of an armature bar. It still runs just as quick. Both of my coil liners that I use, this one and the other one, run around 140 and I think like 53 duty. This one's just a lot more powerful. So you really can't use it for small needles without tearing people up. Those are my coil liners. I also use this sometimes when my hands hurt. You've seen it. It's just a Humminbird rotary. It has a lot of give on it. I changed the spring out. And I like a lot of give when I line because they're super powerful, especially in the rotary. Prevents you from tearing up the skin. Onto my shaders. I only really use one gray wash shader for the most part. For actual really light gray wash, this is a next gen. I'm about to get stung by a fucking bee. I don't know if you can see it hovering around. It's a next gen cutback shader. This is quick and soft. It's 6 volts unloaded. It runs around 122, 123, and 54 duty. It runs really quick but really soft. Really good for it's smooth black and gray. They're really smooth fades and really smooth values. And it's also really soft, so you can layer. And if you have to touch something up, one of those really light tones, and make it darker, it works awesome. You won't tear the skin up. I don't know if you can see it. Next Generations. One of my color packers, old Infinite Irons color packer. I changed all the hardware out, only the coils and the frame are original. The hardware was pretty worn out. You guys have probably seen it. This has taken a lot of shapes and forms, but this is how it sat for quite a while now, and I really fell in love with this. This is my primary color packer. Just the original coils, just new wraps on them. The clear was coming off. New binding post and new spring and armature bar. This runs around 46 duty and about 95 cycles per second. Awesome machine. Infinite Irons, a really old one, number 31. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that in there, stamped right in there. My other color packer that runs pretty much the same, it's 45 and like 95 cycles per second, is my Next Generation Orion. Reason why I have 2 machines that run exactly the same is I use them for different tones. You know, I'm not going to go right from a red and then have to really clean the tube out to go to a fucking like a bright yellow and keep it clean. I just set up 2 fucking identical machines and needles, you know, just for different color tones. Makes my life a little easier when you're switching between colors. I usually use a 15 curve mag for all my color and black and gray. It just seems to work better, or a 15 flat. And then I'll also, with my rotary, I'll take out, and I'll run it really light, I'll take out a 5 mag, you know, or a 5 flat for those really small details, but I use the 15 for pretty much everything, either 15 curved. That was my other one. And this is my mix, I guess. This is more of a generic shader. This is really good for that not solid color packing, you know, but that more realistic color that's not super saturated, more painterly feel. Or I'll use this for the more saturated black and gray. You know, when you're doing solid black fields, like for the background and a gray wash piece, I'd use this because it runs a little slower. This is in between the speed of my color packers and my gray wash shader. Gray wash shader is around 122, 23 in that area. My packers are around 95 to 97. And this, I think, runs around 105 to 106. So it's an in-between. It can do color and black and gray pretty efficiently. So if I only had to bring one shader with me, I was only allowed to use one, I'd use this because this can do that soft black and gray, but it also could pack color. Custom cut springs I did. Probably the nicest springs I've ever cut. The only fucking perfectly straight ones are kind of a pain in the ass. This was a generic, I think, ITS J-frame. It was a weld up. It wasn't cast iron, so it might be another brand. It's like a knockoff ITS. I had to straighten the back. You guys saw it when it was black. You've probably seen this before. It is powder coated, but I dropped it and it chipped. Powder coat does come off too, and it's dirty. It really needs to be cleaned just from touching it with gloves. I'm mad aside it, but it doesn't get all the ink off. Everything lines up. These are the original coils. They were bobbins. I cut the center of the bobbins out. I glued the washers on so I didn't have to cut the grooves for the E-clips. I wrapped them. They're 10 wrap. Because this I'll also push with a 15 or an 11. That's pretty much it. Nothing special. And then I'll also, like I said, I also use this for color packing. I'll just turn the give, you know, about halfway, you know, down. This I'll use with the smaller needles, just because it's lighter and it's a little more precise. You guys have seen this in plenty of videos, so I'm not going to go over it, but this thing has well over 2,000 hours now. I used to keep track of it just for my own, you know, knowledge. I'm not a paid spokesperson. This is all original, everything on here, and it's lasted this long, and it still runs just like the day I got it. Probably the best money I've ever spent tattoo-wise. I've got cheaper machines that run just as well, but nothing that's got the hours on this for the price. When I choose a machine, it really has nothing to do with price or brand. You guys can see what I use ranges from anything from $40 to, around $400, new. I don't know what they're worth now. But like I said, my favorite liner of all time out of any is this, just the way it runs. It wasn't my favorite beforehand, but after the spring snapped, which was a godsend, it was a shitty spring, I rebuilt it, and this is definitely the most versatile liner I've ever had. I could, do big single pass, nine fucking round liners. I could probably push an 11 with this without a problem, even with these small coils. Big single pass lines, and that I could, tune it out a little bit, and I could do some serious blood lining or a single needle. This really does everything, and it's light and it's small, and this runs, I think 7 volts loaded, and that's with a bigger needle. When I'm running my typical 5 is what I use the most for lining. I run, I think, around like 6.6, 6.7 volts, depending on the power supply. And then my other cheap liner, which is probably $60 if you just buy it now, which I almost dropped it, break this glass table, is a Kylin liner. The coils are really either hand wrapped, capped on tape, E-clips, big cores, cast frame, hand filed. Everything's, lines up perfect on this. Nothing was wrong with the original hardware on it. The binding posts, I just like these ones more. And I don't like copper contact screws. As you can see, they just wear down too quick. And I don't like the spring setup on it because it ran a little slow. But that's how the people from Kylin run their machines. They're actually award-winning artists. People think this is a mass-produced company, and it's really not. Lisa from Kylin doesn't actually build them. I don't believe so. She's like the distributor, and she handles the website. But they got a team of artists that are actually award-winning artists in China. And everybody thinks China, bad tattoo. Yes, mass-produced tattoo machines are shit. But a country of over 1 billion fucking people to think they don't have good tattoo artists is extremely conceited. Go look up some of the work they did. Just look on their page, Kylin Tattoos. They use primarily just all Kylin tattoo machines. And the way they run their machines is they run them slower and more powerful. That's just, how the guy tunes them. So that's how they come. I like them powerful, but I like them a little quicker. I was taught to line fast. My mentor still runs his machines old school, less than a dime gap, just like they did in the old days. Some of his machines don't even have capacitors. Even his shader runs like a bat out of hell. His color backer runs faster than my gray ball shader does. It's really all preference. But like I said, you could bid on it and get it for like $40 or buy it now, $60, and change out the spring for a couple dollars, and you got a workhorse machine. This machine, I tuned it, probably about a month and a half ago, and I haven't had to retune it again. Maybe once or twice I've had to adjust the contact screw just because the nut came loose for me. I don't even know, maybe the vibrations. But I haven't had to adjust anything else on it. It just starts up, same with this one. And then also on the other end of the spectrum, my favorite color packer is, to me, it's priceless. I've never seen another one of these. I know it's an expensive ass fucking machine. The fact that I can't find another one. I can't even find another picture of this. It's a challenge. If anybody can find this, another one of these that's for sale, I'll pay you $100 finder's fee. I want another one. I shouldn't use this because how rare it is, but I'm going to because this is my first professional machine that was ever given to me by my mentor. It was his baby. Now it's mine. Given I took some of the original parts off of it just to, preserve them. The frame's fine. And I actually had to file down the front coils, or actually both of them, because they'd been used so much they were worn at an angle, so they were a little taller coils, And then also, $300 if you want to go buy this right now off of Icon or Next Gen. It's $300, and the aluminum's $320. And the same with this. And then there's an in-between machine, which is like $140. So I really don't care how much a machine costs. It's really about how it runs. I don't care where it's made, who fucking made it, as long as it does its job and it does it how I want it to. Cheap American machine. Cheap Chinese machine. Well, I can't. Price cheap, not quality. Because this has a better quality than most American builders. Not even to knock a lot of people, but I have a few Mickey Sharps, which are amazing machines. Everybody raves about them. I prefer this over any of my Sharps any day, given this is a little heavier, but I'm actually going to Swiss cheese it. If anybody knows what that means, just drill all the random holes to take some weight off. But don't pick a machine because it's $300 and just assume it's going to run well, because I have plenty of machines that are more expensive than any one in these boxes, My Safiri Tetris circuit, which is it's an Adam Safiri Tetris frame with the microchip on the side to change the capacitor. It's to buy it now is like $800, and it was only made a year ago. It's a collector's thing, and it runs amazing. But I like the way the cheaper ones run more because they're just tuned to me. So when you pick your machines, given you have to have quality parts, all of these have quality parts, and whatever parts weren't good, like the DV8 irons, the frames are awesome, and the armature bars are fine, and the hardware is fine, but the coils have to go. The coils sucked, so you can use the less expensive frame. Just make sure it's got at least quality parts. It doesn't have to be $80 for real custom coils. Make them yourself. Those coils outrun anybody else's coils, for the money, and they cost me like $1 to make. I'm joking. Those won't outrun everybody else's coils, obviously, but they run low. They don't heat up. It's just you take your time and build the machine. That's it, guys. I'm out. I'm gonna load this up for you.